Imaginary numbers are a lot like combining like terms, especially when it comes to adding, subtracting, and multiplying. When it comes to multiplying, it's a little bit different, but we'll get to that. So when you're adding or subtracting, you're putting like terms together. So this is going to give you 14, and then the number side of this is going to give you 12i. So a lot of times you're going to write the imaginary, you could see it either way with the imaginary part first. So that would be 12i plus 14. Either way will work. Okay, same thing on this one, distributing out your negative sign. So this is really going to be negative 5 minus 7i. So that's going to go away. So then you're going to combine your numbers to get 1 and your imaginaries to get negative 3i. On the bottom, same thing, distributing out that negative. So you're going to have plus 1 plus 4i. So that's all going to go away. So putting your numbers together, you have this, and that are going to go together to give you negative 6 and then plus 4i. And then on the last one with adding and subtracting, putting your numbers together is negative 7. Putting your imaginaries together is plus 1i, which is just written as plus I. Okay, so the multiplying part is where it just gets a little bit different, just because I has different properties of it. So I is just I squared is negative 1, I to the third is negative I, and I to the fourth is 1. So if you had I to the 15th, what you're really doing is you're taking 15 and dividing it by 4. And then you're looking at what its remainder is. So you could count. You could say 1, 2, 3, 4, like count up to 15 and just go along in terms of numbers, but dividing works too. So it goes in there 3 times. That gives you 12, and that's a remainder of 3. So the remainder is what we're looking for. So this is a remainder 1, remainder 2, remainder 3, remainder 0. So it has a remainder of 3, meaning it is negative I. So same thing with 32. We're dividing it by 4. I get 8, which is 32, remainder 0. Remainder 0 means that that's value is 1. 70. I would take 70 and divide it by 4. So that's going to go 1 time here to give me 4. Bring down 30. It's going to go in there 8 times. 28, remainder 2. Remainder 2 is negative 1. So then you have 125. Dividing that by 4. That's going to go into 12 3 times. Bring down your 5. It's going to go in there once, which is 4, and that gives you a remainder of 1. Remainder 1 is I. Okay, so that's how you're solving it if it just gives you I raised to a power. So those are still going to be important when we multiply. So when we multiply these two together, it's just like exponents. It's going to give you 49 and then I squared. But what you know I squared is negative 1. So this is really negative 49. So the only thing that changes is you're replacing the I squared with a number. This is going to be distributive property, just like it was with regular numbers. So that's going to give you 42i and then plus 36i squared. Well, what you know is that I squared is negative 1, so this is really 36 times negative 1. So your final answer for this is 42i minus 36. Okay, same thing down below. So this is going to give me 3 and then times 8i plus 7i squared. So what you know is that I squared is really negative 1, so times negative 1. So you get 3 minus 8i and then plus 7. So then you're going to combine those like terms, which is going to give you 4 minus 8i. Okay, so now you get to ones where you have to double distribute or FOIL. However you want to think about it is fine. So if you're doing the FOIL method, here's your first, is negative 12. Outer is taking that to the outside, so you're also double distributing. It kind of just looks the same if you need an acronym to go with it. Inner is going to be negative 6i, and last is going to be 5i squared. So combine your like terms, and that's going to give you 4i. Then this is really 5 times negative 1, which is negative 5. So then you're going to combine your numbers and get negative 17 from those, and then plus 4i as your final answer. Okay, so the last part is just a little bit harder because there's a number outside to begin with. You can decide what order you want to go in, but I would take this and distribute it first and get 3i plus 5i squared, and then 7 minus 3i, and then I would do my FOIL or double distribute. So if you think of it as FOIL, that's going to give me 21i. Outer is going to be negative 9i squared. Inner is going to be 35i squared. And my last is going to give me negative 15i to the third. Okay, so then what you want to do is combine these together. So I have negative 9 plus 35, which is 26i squared. Well, I squared is negative 1, so this is really negative 26. Then I to the third is really negative I, so this is positive 15i. So then I can put my i's together. I have 21 and I have 15, so I have 36i, and then minus 26 to be your final answer to that. Okay, same thing here. Distributing. 18i minus 18i squared, and then 7 minus 6i. So your first on this is 18 times 7, which is 126i. Your outer is going to go 108i squared. Your inner is going to give you negative 126i. And your last is going to give you 108i squared. So what I know is that this is really going to be negative 108, and this is really going to be negative 108. So these will combine together to give you negative 216. And then you have a positive and a negative, which adds up to 0, so you get negative 216 as your final answer for that. So this is the basics of imaginary numbers.